I think that we all have different ultimates, so it's kind of hard to say it in that
Good old
sense.
social relativism.
Well, what about the example where you jump in front of the car
Yeah.
to save somebody? Is that selfish because you thought you were gonna get, I don't know, something that's selfish out of doing this?
I don't think we go to ourselves before everything we do. Well, this is what I'm going to get out of it, so this is why I'm doing it, and then go for it, right? But I think that is an instinctual thing, like, in us, because, you know, I don't think people necessarily stand there and chart out and, like, do Excel spreadsheets in their mind of, like, what would be positive from doing this and what would be negative. Obviously, we make a lot of bad decisions as human beings. There's no question about that. But a bad decision could be something that you thought would be good to do for yourself before you realized it was a bad decision, such as the car scene.
At the time, so you're saying that you could do things which at the time you don't think they're selfish, but in retrospect you realize that they were.
This could be a total non sequitur. When people ask, like, well, was George Bush a good president? I remember watching an interview with Bill O'Reilly, and Bill O'Reilly was like, well, time will tell. He's a war president.
I mean, isn't it convenient how if you say, well, it's selfish on some arbitrarily defined time, which will, whatever it takes to prove that their action was selfish is what it's going to be.
No.
If you look at it in the 5-year scale,
That's not what
it was not selfish. Later on, you realize it actually made him a millionaire, so it turned out it was selfish.
No, what I'm saying is, if you had the foresight to know that you jumped in front of that car to save that person, but they died, you wouldn't do it because you wouldn't think, you wouldn't do it because you wouldn't get what you thought you would have gotten out of it.
Let's say you know for a fact that you cannot defeat, to take an extreme example, the Nazi army, and you're a Jew, and you're being attacked. You know that there's 100% fucking chance, if there's a huge army coming surrounding you from all angles, you are going to die. And yet, you, like, attempt to save some people. So you're saying that, where was I going with this?
Eugene's going to finish his thought.
So pretty much, like, that was an example of what a selfless person would do, and that's clearly not, like, that's impossible. Which just means that you can't prove that there's anybody who can be selfless.
If you think that you have an opportunity to save people, you probably think that there's an opportunity to save yourself in there too.
You're surrounded by a Nazi army.
But you said, and then you try to save people.
Basically, here's a scenario. So let's say Nazis attack this ghetto. You have absolutely no resources to fight against this Nazi army, and there's a family, a Jewish family inside of a house. Mother and uncle get out. There's 3 kids inside, and it's a burning house now. You can go ahead and try and save these children, but there is an army coming to kill you or take you to a camp. Surrounding you as we speak, and going to take you to a concentration camp and incinerate you or worse. So was that the stemming of your argument of, like?
Yes. Yeah. So then you have this hardcore setup, and then let's say out of pure emotional rage, you, like, just decide to try to attack the Nazis, knowing with 100% certainty that this will not work and nobody will ever find out you did this. And there's no chance of you saving anybody doing this. You're just enraged and you're going on a berserker fury. And according to the definition, this would be somewhat selfless. First of all, you know you're gonna die, like, any moment, which on a long enough time scale, everybody will eventually die. So I guess that's just compressing it down to a really obvious example.
Would it be fair to say that to be selfless in this definition would be irrational?
First of all, I think it's kind of interesting the way you're trying to define selflessness, because it sort of has a very religious undertone of martyrdom. You know, like,
How is it?
well, religion preaches martyrdom, like, Every single religion preaches being selfless, and if you don't believe in religion, that's pretty much one of the main doctrines of religion. Then,
that's so awesome.
you know, how is selflessness
That's
true?
awesome. That you pointed that out, because in fact I was just merely following your definition of selfishness. You defined this as an example of selflessness, and then I just illustrated it as a concentration camp example. You're like, oh, this example which I just told you to enact is in fact has religious undertones, which is why it's invalid. What if this person really knew that there was nothing he could do, and he didn't do anything? And then in the other case, if he did everything he could, is he in both cases?
That's exactly my point. I think for each individual case, the actions you take have some sort of selfish motivation. Like the guy who lies, if a guy lies down and dies and lets himself die, he would have selfish undertones or like beliefs, not necessarily even beliefs, because it's like an instinctual thing, but it would be a self-motivated thing to die sooner and just get it over with, as opposed to put himself through to suffer, whereas the guy who fights thinks he can give himself a chance.
I think it's amply evident that there is no possible I mean, I think I brought out a variety of scenarios, switched them around, made them completely opposite to each other. In each case, you have easily found a way to call it self-motivated. So clearly, you're defining self-motivated in a way that is not falsifiable, which makes it meaningless, equal to any other unfalsifiable thing. Being unfalsifiable means you have no consequence of any sense in any possible way on reality. Because if you had any consequence, you could test for it, and then you could falsify your idea. So this definition is unfalsifiable, therefore it is a self-sustaining tautology, and has no room in a rational discussion.
Here's what I'm going to do then. I can either go, you guys can have we can wrap this up and have a final statement from the two of you. I believe I've made myself clear on it.
This was my final statement.
And that was your final statement? And so do you want to have a last word on it?
I think I've made myself clear on it as well. I think that it was 3-1 in this situation, so devil's advocate I shall remain.
All right, sounds good.
All right, that's excellent. Attack the next one.
Everybody knows the things she does to please.